Hi everybody. So I know I've been promising a little chat about some sleep stats with you over the last little while. So I managed to get some summaries of the data just to share with you because the picture's really interesting. And if you're monitoring stuff like that, this even at just a very simple glance every now and again, it can help you understand what's going on in your body, what impacts it in what ways, and whether, sometimes there might be a red flag that you can see through your data that's collected for you automatically if you wear, one of these kind of watches. Kind of see it because it's under my sleeve. So I have had this watch since February 2020. So I only really have data from then through till now, which is the 8th of July. So almost 18 months, which is really helpful up to a point, and you'll see why once I talk you through it. So the specific so my watch gathers a number of sleep statistics for me and summarizes it. But the specific one that I wanted to talk you through and some of what the data is showing is my resting average sleeping heart rate. So what that means is when I'm sleeping, I wear my watch. It is able to measure my heart rate through a monitor on this side of the watch. And throughout a 7.5 hour sleep session for me, which is 5 sleep cycles, 90 minutes each, my watch takes data points. It takes a measure of what my heart rate is throughout the night. So it might end up being, actually, I might be able to show you from last night throughout the night. Yeah, hopefully you can see that. These red dots are from last night, and they are all the different data points all the different measurements that my watch took from me last night. So they take that data and they summarize it into what the average resting heart rate is for that night's sleep. So there are you're getting a really cool view because I'm going to give you 18 months worth of commentary on some key points and where the data's changed, um, and what and I'll explain what that means in terms of what's happening in my body and why it's important for me to know that. So the first one that you're looking at um, so what I did is I took an average, so you can work out what your daily average is, it'll give you that, or you can ask what your weekly or your monthly average is. So I wanted to give you an idea of on on a normal playing field for me, when I don't have any illness, and I'm not pregnant, and there's no like major travel or vaccinations or anything happening, this is a typical average weekly kind of score for me when everything's normal. So we're talking between mid 50s and 60s. Um, that's beats per minute on average across a night. Now, what's really interesting for, especially for the female population who are still going through their monthly cycles, I noticed a trend that midway through my cycle, where you go through ovulation, I have an increase in my resting heart rate at night time of about 10%. And then just at the end, just before menstruation, I also get an increase. And that's driven by some of the hormonal changes and your body's reaction to that, to those hormonal changes. It means that your heart needs to work. For me, during that mid cycle and end cycle, for a couple of days in that week, my heart is working 10% harder compared to the other days where I have no exponential changes in my hormones. So that's the first one, really interesting for the females with normal cycles my evidence shows at ovulation and menstruation, my average heart rate goes up 10%, which means my heart is working 10% harder during those periods in the month. So that's the first one. This is a normal picture, mid 50s to 60-ish. I'm going to get rid of that one. This one is end of September into October last year. This is when I was pregnant, and I probably would have been between 6 and 12 months pregnant at this stage. So you can see it's already started to increase, and there's no dips into the 50s, and actually we're starting to increase up to between mid 60s and into the 70s. That's normal for a pregnant woman. Their average heart rate tends to increase because their body's working really hard, so their body needs to pump more to be able to fuel the growth and all the changes that are happening in their body. So my heart rate had, started to increase because of pregnancy. And then I obviously had a miscarriage towards the end of November, and it was sitting at 60. I had about 10 days of feeling normal as you can be after a miscarriage. And then I started having some issues, and some of the symptoms of my bowel cancer started to appear. So I had, first week in December, my average heart rate was mid 60s. It moved into the 70s, so that's 20% plus harder my heart was working. I had a colonic irrigation the week of Christmas, so that helped ease some of the pressure, and my heart rate my resting average heart rate for the week started to drop. Just after New Year, I was starting to get into a lot of pain. My abdomen, I looked heavily pregnant, and you can see here it was moving into the 80s, which we're talking is like 30% higher, 40% higher than normal. So the next one I wanted to show you was down at a daily level. So this is the week of my operation. This is what's happening. So I got admitted to hospital on the Thursday afternoon. So you can see the couple of days before, my body's kicking in. Thursday I was admitted. My average sleeping heart rate was 85 beats a minute when I'm asleep. That is an absolute nightmare. That's my heart rate when I'm out, when I'm kicking about the house. I'm doing some not heavy chores, but putting stuff away, or maybe when I'm doing my yoga, when I'm conscious, I'm awake and I'm moving. That is my heart rate. And during the week of my operation, that's what it was like when I was sleeping. 25 beats higher, 30 beats higher than normal. It's absolutely mental. And then it just goes crazy. I had my operation on the Friday. I was up to my eyeballs in morphine for 2 days. And, Sunday the 10th, my average sleeping heart rate was 99 beats per minute, average across a night. That, my poor wee heart and my body, it was having to pump that fast to deal with everything that was going on, and to be able to survive. Just completely blew my mind. So thankfully that's the peak. The surgeons removed everything, and I started to come off the drugs. Really from the Sunday, that was the last day I think I had morphine. I got moved on the Sunday night into the mixed ward. I had issues with the pain patch that I had, which I think caused Monday night sleep to be particularly high. And then you can see I've moved it back down to weekly again. You can see I was discharged the week where it was 79 beats per minute on average for the week. And as each week progressed and I started to be able to eat more and move around and sleep and nap, you know, my heart rate started to dip right back down to normal again. But it took nearly a month for that, for all the drugs and for my recovery to kick in back down to almost normal levels. So I had 2 weeks after I got out of hospital, I detoxed. I didn't take a screenshot of that, but I had a 6-week period where my average sleep and heart rate was the best it had ever been, and was sitting consistently between 55 and 59, with a couple of percent increase when I had certain bits in my monthly cycle. I went on to my chemotherapy program at the end of March, and this is what happened to my heart rate data. This is just a snapshot over 7 weeks, which is like middle of the cycle. My average heart rate was sitting between mid 60s, 63, 61 up to 70. So it's working 20% harder all through the day, but even at night time when I'm resting and I'm not moving, my heart was having to work 20% harder just to deal with the chemotherapy and everything, all the side effects and everything that came with that. And then the last one, which is kind of my little celebration, yay! So this is a daily for the last week, about a month out of finishing my chemotherapy, and it slowly started to come back down as I've detoxed the drugs out of my system, and my wee little heart it's not having to pump quite as hard anymore. And I'm actually, the last 4 nights, I'm getting back down to the levels I had last year, when the bowel cancer wasn't causing as much distress in my body. And actually it's if it stays like this will be slightly better than where I was last year, outside the pregnancies. So what is it I thought was helpful to note is, this night, Sunday, I ate very late in the evening because we had plans and stuff. I ended up eating late, which pushed my heart rate up that night because I didn't leave long enough for digestion to occur when I was awake. And my body was having to go through that when I was sleeping. And because it was still squirreling away doing stuff, my heart was having to beat faster to be able to deal with that. And also I noticed changes when I had my vaccines, my COVID vaccines. My heart rate increased for a couple of nights, just as my body was dealing with the drugs that were put into my system. So that's it in a nutshell. There are a number of different things that can impact your rest and heart rate, which gives a clue into what your heart's having to do to be able to support your body. And for me, the major things that have an impact were the pregnancy, obviously the operation, the drugs that I was taking, both post-operation or pre-operation so that they could operate on me, post-operation in terms of painkillers, and the chemotherapy drugs. If you're a female, your heart rate is impacted by your cycle, mid and end for me specifically. The vaccines impacted it. If I eat shit, my resting heart rate is up. I noticed that in the end of my chemotherapy cycles, where it was a tough slog, and my healthy eating was a little bit more flexible because I just was in survival mode. The nights where I ate shit, my heart was having to work harder to deal with it. And lastly, eating late impacted that, which meant my wee heart was having to work harder when I was sleeping, um, instead of working on regeneration and recycling and doing all that amazing things that happen when you're sleeping to boost your immune system, try and stop aging, heal, regenerate everything. So that's the heart rate stats. I hope you found that interesting and you learned some new things. It's really been helpful for me, and this is something that if my scores settle between 50 and 60, and something happens that's unexpected and my data changes, it means it's an indicator for me. It's a red flag for me to keep an eye on it, um, and maybe try and understand what's going on before something gets so bad that I need to have an emergency operation, and my little heart's having to beat 100 beats a minute while I'm asleep just to handle it. So that's me for today. Interesting video for you tomorrow on the physical healing, which you've seen a part of today, versus the emotional, mental, and spiritual healing part that I'm going to have to go through now that I'm at the back end of the trauma that I've had to go through over the last 18 months. So I'll see you tomorrow for that video, and I hope you enjoy it. See you later. Bye.